Yo Joburg, everybody. This is Steve, back with his dodgy beard, and another year has come and gone. This year I turn 35. And don't worry about wishing me in the comments section because my birthday will probably have come and gone by the time this video sees upload, thanks to China's very restricted internet policies. But the good news is, something else turned 35 this year. Not G.I. Joe, sadly. But everybody's favorite alternative toy line, the Transformers. I treated myself to this little guy, and G.I. Joe hardcore fans amongst us perhaps might want to switch off this video now, but if you are interested in my thoughts on what Transformers has been doing for the past few years, come a little closer. Let's discuss this guy, probably the closest thing to a G.I. Joe vehicle you're likely to see at the moment. I mean, if that isn't a shoe-in for a vamp, I don't know what is. Or at least a very Cybertronian take on it. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's Hound. I love him. I've already played with him, but I'm going to unbox him again for your benefit. So, come a little closer. Well, this is a rare thing on G.I. Joburg. A new toy out of package. We normally dabble in pre-owned, pre-loved stuff. But Siege War for Cybertron Trilogy Hound, that's a mouthful, is quite exquisitely presented in this window box. It's gorgeous! Look at the special artwork for Hound on the one side and incredible artwork for the line on the other. This is how to do it right, guys. This is fantastic. Note that the Transformer is in his robot mode, just to take up perhaps a bit more space in the box. I mean, Transformers typically, back in the day, used to be shopped to us in their alternate modes, which were more compacted down. And this is interesting because it plays into the transformation. If you recall, whenever you transform into robot mode, it's basically exploding everything outwards. Every part that can be manipulated is manipulated. Oh, pop out, come on guys. And that means that basically getting from vehicle to robot mode is always easier than the reverse. Would you agree with me? Then to try and fold everything back into vehicle mode is more of a challenge. And we're going to get into that, but it seems like, you know, modern Transformers, since they are in their robot modes already, make it more challenging to get them back into their old mode. So you've got the bigger challenge up front. But here he is, guys, and he's a stout little fella. I don't have any Transformers with me to do height comparisons, but he is quite chunky, small, and squat, which is perfect for what was always one of the most diminutive of the original car robots. Hound has got fantastic articulation for a Transformer. I mean, if you think about back in the day, we'd always have Transformers that were basically bricks. This guy can kind of pose low. He has incredible ability to lunge. He can do like a fly kick if, you know, you believe Transformers have some kind of martial arts skills. He can do power punches. Yeah, man, anything you can think of he can do. I mean, two-handed weapon grips aren't exactly what Transformers were all about. And besides, they're so strong, why would they need to duel or get two hands around their guns? Very nice. It is intriguing to me that this is his hologram gun. I always imagined it was the shoulder weapon. But since the shoulder weapon on the classic was a projectile launcher, maybe it's best fulfilling the more offensive duties in this incarnation. But I mean, it's your toy, you can make these guns do whatever you want them to. Perhaps we should talk a little bit about the included paperwork. Something that I'm quite intrigued by is when buying toys in the more interesting locales, you get two sets of instructions. This was bought in China, so we've got Mandarin and we've got English. Or try language. The Mandarin is in a glossy finish. That's probably showing up on camera. Whereas the English and other languages is in a matte finish. More sort of like matte paper stock. This is something that I've noticed with G.I. Joe, vintage G.I. Joe as well. that in Europe and the rest of the world, we got the glossy blueprints and instructions, whereas the United States always got a more matte paper stock. So I don't know if this has anything to do with that. If you have some insight into the reason for the difference, please do leave a comment in the section below. I'm intrigued. But if you want to see what a Mandarin instruction manual looks like, it's pretty much the same. I mean, the pictures are all it needs to have, but a bit of text here, there, and everywhere. Very tastefully done artwork. Love it, love it. Of course, they didn't have to stray too far from the vehicle model because it's pretty much exact. They don't really have to extrapolate anymore like they did with the old brickish Transformers, where the artworks were kind of toyetic, but much more fluidly posed than the toy could manage. Anyway, what is the fun of a Transformer if not to transform it? Let's see if I don't screw this up on camera. But we're going to go from his very cool robot mode and beautiful eyes, though I will always miss the light piping that I used to have, being a late Generation 1 and Generation 2 Transformers fan. That's where I kind of stepped on. Yeah, here we go. Like I say, don't cock it up for camera, Steven. This is probably the part where, if I was smart, I'd do a little time lapse. But I might have some things to say while we're in the midst of this, so maybe I'll just try and get this right for everyone's benefits. Yeah, so modern Transformers have an interesting hybrid of plastic materials. You'll notice that in some places, particularly these joints, you have almost a transitionary area between hard ABS plastic and this sort of more lenient, more pliable, spongier plastic. Yeah, that's the technical name. Spongy plastic. And it occurs over here as well. So where there is a meeting of these two parts, you'll have something that has a bit more give, has a bit more flex to it, which is an ingenious idea, if I do say so myself, because these are the parts that would typically stress, whiten, possibly even break in, older bots. Of course, Hound here has, I suppose, the benefits of 35 years of Transformers design. And the more articulated they are, the more prone to those kind of stresses and breakages. And so we have some very, very cunning design in order to alleviate those problems, which I'm very appreciative of. Anyway, I think we're pretty much there. Bam. Just got to lock everything in place, which is another kind of invention of latter-day Transformers. Because there is so much more movement to the bots, they need locking points in order to keep things from being too kind of weebly in their very rigid, otherwise, vehicle modes. But here he is, guys. A Cybertronian take on the Willys Jeep. Some reviewers call that seating. I call that mechanical detail, which is supposed to ape seating, because you want to have all the hallmarks of a open-top Jeep without actually going as far as to make it an open-top Jeep, if you know what I mean. This still has to pass as a very alien design that did not have humans in mind when it was designed, and yet will still accommodate maybe a Diaclon, maybe not. I don't think the footwells are long enough, but you can see there's a kind of a drivetrain. There's definitely some gearing in there. Let's get a light in there. I'll show you. Yep, you see there's a chain in there. I don't think that would make for a very comfortable seat, but it passes as a sort of a nominal seat. Very cool design. Chunky. Man, if they made this in Joe scale, I think we'd all go out and buy a couple, regardless of the price. It would just be so cool to have that marriage. What's very interesting is the clear plastic is over a kind of an armored design. So once again, going for something that apes characteristics of human vehicles, but without actually going as far as to putting in a glass that would be, nonsensical for a dedicated alien vehicle. Lovely, lovely accents. Some people are on the fence about the weathering details that Siege has. I'm all for it on a vehicle like Hound. I mean, you can't go wrong dirtying up a Jeep. I think I'd be less in favor with it if it was a sports car, but Hound here is perfect. Well, with some exceptions, this back end unfortunately leaves a lot to be desired. It is a bit open, it is a bit of a cheat. Would have been nice to have some kind of flashness to that, but how often are you going to look at it from behind, right? What is cool is it mounts its weapons. I mean, there is various ways you can mount the weapons. Like, these ports are all universal, so side mounting is possible, but the intended way, very, very cool, very, very reminiscent of vehicles, Earth vehicles that mount weapons on top. So you've got the rocket launcher and gun in a sort of a weapons cluster on top. Unfortunately, they don't kind of swivel in tandem. They are kind of fixed forward, but hey, you know what? The amount of playability that you've got with this guy already is staggering. So, and then the spare tire, if you want to call it that, it's probably just really just an ammo drum. Can mount back there. All makes beautiful sense. You know, on some bots, mounting things to the roof would make them kibbly. With Hound, it is absolutely right. So while this figure has been out for about a year now, and I'm only getting him now, I've had him in my crosshairs for some time because he's just super cool and very Joe-esque. That green, while it does closely match the G1 toy, guess what else it matches? It matches the G.I. Joe olive tone, which is just a double win in my books and make him super cool. Let's roll him a bit. I mean, the fact that they don't have axles will always hurt the roll a little bit. And the fact that the tires aren't rubberized will also be a problem. But I'd say that is perfectly adequate for a transforming toy, which is essentially two toys in one. Which justifies the price point. I mean, this guy was 200 RMB, that's 400 Rand, that's like $25 thereabouts. I think that's fair. I'm not going to wait for him to be on clearance. I guess Hasbro can have some of my hard-earned Tom, and that's okay. In closing, I guess I'd just like to say that while it is always going to be lamentable that G.I. Joe is kind of in limbo at the moment, it is encouraging to see that Transformers, the other beloved toy line of that era, is thriving and growing from strength to strength. In fact, I'd go as far as to say that these are the finest Transformers ever produced, ever. The design panache that goes into these, the detailing, the advertising campaign. I don't know if you've seen those fantastic stop motion films, but they are top notch. The little touches, like the mixed mediums used for the construction, represent a line that has been evolving since 1984, and right now I hold in my hand the ultimate expression of that. I love this toy. Happy birthday to me, and happy birthday to Hound. Oh, thanks, Steven. Happy birthday! Yo, Joburg, everybody. Later.